All right, we have made it to lesson number 8. Let's go ahead and just take a few moments and review the main ideas in lesson 7. The main ideas were multiplying by 6 and multiplying by 7. Let's start off with multiplying by 6. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to practice skip counting by 6 because that's a little bit newer. I could do skip counting by 2s, but let's do the 6s. 6, 12. Here I'm going to practice multiplying by 6, so skip count by 6, and we're going to get 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Next one, let's take a look at 7s. Here we have 8 groups of 7. I'm going to skip count by 7. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56. And again, after a while, you'll have it memorized and you won't even need to use your fingers. Last one, 7 times 10. Well, I'd much rather skip count by 10s. That makes it easy. I'm going to write down my 7. And at the end, what do we put? 0. All right, so that's a review of 6s and 7s. Let's go ahead and move on, take a look at the main thing today. The main thing that we want to focus in on is how we master our multiplication facts. These are basically some review ideas. I want to list 6 ideas. Let's get started. Number 1. I believe that it's very important to be realistic with our students. Some students are going to learn their multiplication facts very quickly, whereas others are going to need some extra practice and extra review. As parents and teachers, we have to relish the idea that our students are not all clones of each other, and we have to do our very best to try to meet their individual needs. This may mean that a certain student is going to need some extra practice compared to another student. Well, maybe that means an extra worksheet. Maybe that student needs some extra attention in a classroom situation. Perhaps that student needs an extra 5 minutes a day just practicing their multiplication facts. Number 2, games. I think games are an excellent way to learn math. And there are many games that involve math. In the Teacher's Edition and the Student Edition, we have lists of different games with the math that they help teach. Games are great because students learn math while they are having fun. And you can't beat that. Number 3. Fact of the day. This is something that's been mentioned before, and I think it's worth repeating because on those certain facts where students struggle, we can go ahead and maybe on a certain day focus in on just one fact. And from time to time, but not too often, ask the student to give us the answer, and then we can give them some positive feedback. Fact of the day, I think it's very powerful. Number 4. Memory devices. What is a memory device? Well, a memory device is a tool used to help recall certain information. For instance, let's suppose that we're working on 7 times 7, and our student keeps forgetting 7 times 7. Well, one way that we can work with this is we can go ahead and use this sort of a memory device. Let's start with the number 100. All students are familiar with 100. What's half of 100? Well, most students would say 50. When it comes to 7 times 7, 7 times 7 isn't quite 50, but it's pretty close. We know that 7 times 7 is a little bit less than 50. So 7 times 7 is a little less than 50. Well, what's a little less? Well, let's go ahead and just subtract 1. 1 is fairly small compared to 50. 50 minus 1 is 49. And lo and behold, 7 times 7 is 49. So if we can remember that 7 times 7 is just a little less than 50, and remember just to subtract away 1 from 50, we'll be in good shape. That would be an example of a memory device. All right, next one. This next one here is something I've never mentioned, but is a very powerful idea, which is when it comes to our multiplication facts, what we want to do is make sure that we use our common sense. Here's an example that I think will clarify. Suppose that we are working on 8 times 7 and a student forgets 8 times 7. I'm going to write it here this way. 8 times 7 equals box. What can we do? Well, one thing that we can do is we can ask that student if they remember 7 times 7, a fact that uses one of these two numbers. And maybe they remember, hey, 7 times 7 is a little bit less than 50. Well, 50 minus 1, 49. 7 times 7 is 49. Now, how do we use this to get this with common sense? Let's go through that. This means 7 groups of 7. You can draw a picture of that if you want to. This means 8 groups of 7. This one has one extra group of 7, doesn't it? So to get this one, we're going to have to add that extra group of 7 onto 49, and we'll get 56. So 8 times 7, 56. That sort of a strategy is often very helpful in coming up with one math fact from another one that we already know. Last one, practice tips. For almost all students, one of the best ways to learn a skill in math, and keep in mind these multiplication facts are a skill. One of the best ways to learn it is not to give them 2 sheets on consecutive 2 days of 100 problems each. That may really frustrate the student. However, if instead you give them 4 sheets over 4 days, where each sheet has them practice not 100 problems, but perhaps has them practice 25 problems, I think you're going to notice a lot better results, because math is best learned by working on it a little bit every day. Now, if you find that your student still has trouble with recall, it may mean that, hey, I got to work with them a little bit on Saturday, maybe only 15 minutes, but I'm going to work with them 15 minutes on Saturday with that recall. And often that extra time is going to make a lot of difference. All right, next thing, speed drills. Often in school, students are asked to complete a certain number of problems in a certain amount of time. How important is speed? A couple of comments about speed. Number one, what we want to do is we want to get to the point where we are able to rattle off our math facts, our multiplication facts quickly. However, not all students get to that point at the same rate. And so what I encourage students to do is, first of all, go for accuracy. And then after they've worked with accuracy for a while, then try to work to speed things up. Let's take a look at an example. What I want to do here is this. I want to go ahead and put up 8 problems. And I'm going to try to complete those problems quickly. But by each problem, what I want to do is give a quick explanation of what I did. And I'm going to use a variety of strategies. Let's go ahead and begin. Okay, let's suppose that I'm trying to do these problems quickly. one idea that's always good is if you are faced with a bunch of problems like this, try to quickly knock out the easy ones. There are certain ones that we can quickly do without much thought. Obviously 3 times 1. Obviously 7 times 0. So we get those done quickly. Then the second thing, let's look for facts that we memorized. 7 times 7, a little bit less than 50, 49. Let's look for the ones that have a 10 in there. Oh, this one does. So 7 followed by a 0. Now, let's look for the 9s. Oi, these are the same problem. Well, that's excellent news. We only need to do one of them. When we look right here, 5 times 9, we can go ahead and take the number 5 and subtract 1 from it, which is going to give us a 4. And then 4 plus 5 is 9. 45. This one will be 45. Same answer, of course. 8 times 7. Here I may need to go ahead and count by 7s or 8s. It doesn't matter. If I'm more comfortable with 8s, I'm going to just go ahead and count by 8s. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go out 7. So I got 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56. Last one, 3 times 4. 4, 8, 12. Okay. You want to, of course, use a variety of strategies. And all this basically just takes practice. And so please be patient with yourself and give yourself some time to practice. Last thing, story problems. I've given you story problems in the student workbook, but we haven't really talked much at all about story problems. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and put up a couple of story problems and have us take a brief look at that. In the worksheets that follow Lesson 8, you are going to have some story problems to do. Let's go ahead and take a look at both of these story problems. Number 1, for exercise, Caleb ran 4 miles a day for 6 days. How many miles did he run in all? Often with story problems, please feel free to read the problem through several times, especially if you don't get the main idea and if you don't get the main question that's being asked. All right. So he ran 4 miles a day for 6 days. Do I know what 6 days they are? No, I don't. But I sure know that he ran 4 miles a day for those 6 days. So I can think of this as being 4 miles on Monday, 4 miles on Tuesday, 4 Wednesday, 4 Thursday, 4 Friday, 4 Saturday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, we can next see that we have how many groups of 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's really 6 groups of 4. Well, 6 times 4 is 24. So the answer right here, 24 miles. Next one right here. I want you to go ahead and try this next one on your own, and then we'll go through this together. So please pause the video. Okay, let's take a look at this last one here. Esther found 7 dimes under her sofa cushion. What's the total value of the coins she discovered? Well, because they're talking about dimes, what we want to do is we want to keep in mind the value of a dime. We've talked about that before. Each dime is worth how many cents? It's going to be 10 cents. So she found 7 of those. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 dimes, 7 tens. Well, as we take a look at this, I think it's very clear. How many groups of 10 do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 7 groups of 10, which give us 70. So the total value, 70 cents. Often with problems like this, you may want to write it out as an addition before you write it out as a multiplication. Some students can see it immediately and then just multiply to get their answer. That's great too. Give yourself some time to work on these and practice these through, because like all the other problems, these do take practice. But be patient with yourself and make sure you ask your parent or your teacher for some help. Let's go ahead and recap here. Most important thing, be patient, be realistic, use games. Obviously, make sure you skip count. Use common sense. All of those are going to be very, very important ideas as we learn to master our multiplication facts. The last thing to do is to give this some practice, and there are 3 practice sheets that go along with lesson number 8. After you're done with those, and when you think you're ready, we have the post-test, which is also in your book. Hopefully this program has been helpful for you. Hopefully it's helped you learn your multiplication facts. One thing I want you to always keep in mind is that you may find that you've forgotten some facts from time to time. If that's the case, all you need to do is review just a little bit, and they should come back to you fairly quickly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good luck with your multiplication facts. This ends lesson number 8. Thank you.